It's Thursday, the 24th day of July. Back on Closer Look with Michael Friscaletti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media. I'm Scott Sexsmith. Been a terrible week in terms of celebrity deaths.
Yeah, it feels like every day a newsfeed comes up with somebody from our childhood who's passed away.
Well, we started the week with Malcolm Jamal Warner, Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show, Ozzy Osbourne earlier this week, and now just today, Terry Jean Bollea.
The Hulkster.
Otherwise known as Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. You think of a figure from your childhood, that's one of the biggest ones, man. Hulkamania.
Makes you want to rip your T-shirt off, doesn't it?
No. No, it doesn't. He's a fascinating guy, too, because he also had that massive lawsuit with Gawker.
Huge, yes.
That actually shut Gawker down. I thought I had read last year that there was a movie in the works about that, too.
Could have been.
If he was consulting, I guess he won't be anymore. But
He will not be.
Yep, crazy.
Wanted to ask you, been spending a lot of time reading at DundasToday.com. Content is fantastic. How are things going?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a great launch. We've talked about this a couple days ago, but Brenda Jeffries is our editor there, our newest site, our 27th local news site. And the feedback and the interest has been phenomenal. Honestly, probably one of our best launches ever in terms of people being interested and wanting to know more about us and clicking on our stories and getting to know the kind of work we do. Been a lot of great feature stories, a lot of great news that we've been publishing. We have Karen Nickerson and Regan Spencer there as journalists, two of our reporters, doing great stuff. So it's been an awesome launch. We've done a few of these since I've been here, and this is probably one of our best in terms of immediate reaction from the community, which is awesome. And like I said, just in time for the Cactus Festival next month.
Exactly.
We should fly down there for that.
For those who missed that episode, did you want to give a refresher of the...
Yeah, the Cactus... Well, I grew up in Hamilton next door, so the Cactus Festival was like must-see TV. You had to go over go like next door. Yeah, you had to go next door. And, all this great downtown street vendors, lots of things going on. Yeah. It's like a big festival on the Danforth, for example, in Toronto.
Okay.
And... I'm going to get this wrong again like I did last time, but it was named the Cactus Festival for some because I think a local greenhouse initially sponsored it back in the day.
Right.
I'm hoping someone calls in or emails us to correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm sure we'll have tons of coverage of the Cactus Festival.
Or we could just get on the internet and check.
We could, but I don't. AI would just give us an answer on that. I will tell you, I will promise the people of Dundas that this will be the best covered Cactus Festival ever because our journalists will be there. Some great photo galleries, talking to vendors and doing a lot of interesting things. So it'll be awesome.
All right. To today's show, one thing that has also been consistent in the news, it seems like forever, are these ongoing scams where people are losing their life savings.
Yeah, I've said this before. I think we kind of live in fraud culture. Like the fraud is just part of the way of life, right? And everything you have to worry about, every step you take, everything is a fraud or a scam. And, there's been a lot of stuff in the news lately about the evolution of scamming with the advent of AI, copying people's voices and making phone calls with that kind of thing. There was this heartbreaking story out of Barrie, I think it was last month. Barrie Today had a crazy piece about an elderly person there who was a victim of such an elaborate scam, Scott, that the person actually was instructed to take hundreds of thousands of dollars out of their account and buy bars of gold with it. And then someone showed up at their house in the driveway to grab the bag. Yeah. And the whole ploy apparently was that they got this guy to call them. They left a message on his screen, called this number. He called the number. They said that you've been hacked. Right. Someone's accessed your bank accounts. We want to help. Can you help us catch them? And so he thought he was or he or she, I can't remember. We're trying to think they were trying to help these guys catch the bad guy, and they were the bad guys. And those gold bars just vanished, and they'll never be recovered, and that money will never. And it's just that stuff is just the tip of the iceberg, honestly.
Of course.
You hear about busts overseas of like major, scam farms where people are just being held and in order to make phone calls and send emails. And like I said, the advent of AI is just exponentially elevating, right? So we're going to chat some more with Jeff Horncastle, from the Canadian Anti-Fraud.
Friend of the show.
Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, I believe it is.
That is correct.
Affiliated with the RCMP, And this guy's on the front lines of all the different scams that are out there. So we're going to kind of get an update on sort of what's the latest on where things are at and just talk to him about some of the things we're hearing.
Scams continue to be alive and well, affecting Canadians from all walks of life and costing innocent people a lot of money, and in some cases, their entire life savings. Jeff Horncastle from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center is back with us tonight to give us an update. Jeff, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Happy to be here.
All right, Jeff, so many scams right now. I was actually on your website today, and I couldn't believe this, but they're actually alphabetized from A to Z, and I counted no less than 87, and I know that's not the full list. Does it seem like there's more scams now than ever?
Absolutely. And you know what? For a lot of Canadians, it almost seems overwhelming. Like how does one remember how every type of fraud works? So like you just mentioned, there was 87 titles in there, right? We're tracking officially like about 30, a little over 30 types of fraud in our stats. But again, there's a lot, and that's why like a lot of our messaging focuses on what methods fraudsters are using, as opposed to breaking down every type of fraud, because it's almost impossible to remember how every type of fraud operates or how it works.
Can you give us maybe a few examples of some of the scams that you've heard of lately, or that you and the team are working on?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the top of the list is still, and it has been for a number of years, is crypto investments. People are still looking to invest into crypto, whether they're coming across ads on social media, or maybe a deepfake video of a public figure, maybe a celebrity or politician, right? So methods are changing, but at the end of the day, it's still the same type of fraud. But technology is one of the big driving forces, as we're aware, behind all types of fraud.
And in terms of the AI technology and how it's evolved, we're seeing like people being able to copy people's voices, that kind of thing. How often are you hearing about that?
So we don't have the full breakdown. We don't have stats on deepfakes, but we're starting to hear more about it. And at the end of the day, it's being aware that technology is out there. So, for example, you're on social media, you see a video of a politician promoting a crypto investment platform, or merchandise, for example. We almost have to take a stance where we're trying to prove that video is fake until we can prove otherwise, right? And that's, unfortunately, it's the world we live in. And then after the fact, it's the same awareness and prevention methods that you would have used in the past. So do as much research as you can. Don't feel rushed, right? But yeah, it's the world we live in. We turn our cell phone on. There's fraud, whether it's a phishing text message or an email. We go on Facebook or social media. It's all over the place. So we just have to be aware of what tactics fraudsters are using.
The one that bogged my mind too, and I guess we shouldn't be surprised, but there was at least one of Prime Minister Mark Carney talking at a podium about an investment and what they were going to do. And, obviously I can tell it's fake. I know it's fake because he wouldn't spend his time talking about something like that. But the average person, there's a lot of people there that might not realize that that's not the Prime Minister. And it's scary how realistic it seemed.
It's really scary. A couple of years ago, it was kind of, I say easy, but you can kind of tell where the lip movement didn't really match the audio in the clips. It's not so much the case anymore, where you watch a video and you can watch it a few times and you could say, you know what, if I didn't know any better, there's no way of telling whether, of knowing if this video is fake or not, right? So that technology is going to continue to evolve, unfortunately. And it's just a matter of being aware that that technology is out there.
But Jeff, why is it that smart, cautious people still fall for these things?
That's a great question, and I think there's a lot of stigma around being a victim of fraud, and that question kind of plays into that as well, right? Because I mean, how many times do we see something and we say, "Oh, that's just a scam"? Well, you know what? The person beside you may have been a victim, or may be a victim down the line, and that's going to kind of resonate with them down the line, and they're going to remember that, and that's going to discourage them from reporting. And that's why we estimate that only 5 to 10% of victims report. There's a lot of stigma around being a victim. I'm here today, and if I was a victim yesterday, I probably wouldn't discuss it. Not just because I'm the spokesperson for the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, but I take a lot of pride in in what I do day to day, and I'm definitely not the only one. It's very common, and fraud unfortunately can happen to anyone. Everybody's in a different situation, different factors come into play. Fraudsters always prey on vulnerabilities, and unfortunately, they're always finding new methods to get us when we're down.
It's a great point. I do have a relative who told me a story lately about a close friend of theirs, elderly person, who fell for the grandparent scam and was so horrified that it happened to her.
Yeah.
She had close to like thousands of dollars, Jeff, she lost from this scam. And she's a very intelligent person, and she was so upset, blaming herself, right? But like you said, it doesn't just impact, it can impact anybody.
It can, and it's fraud there's always been that conversation around intelligence and being a victim of fraud. There's no correlation whatsoever. Fraud is very sophisticated now, and it's all more reason to just have that conversation with our family members and our loved ones, even if you don't want to sit down and lecture them in any kind of way, but just having a casual conversation with our family members and our loved ones can go a long way. They'll remember that, and it'll save them down the line.
That's a great point. We talked a little bit about this before we got in the air, but I want to talk about this case that we all read about in Barrie a month or two ago. Our site there, Barrie Today, had a piece about an elderly individual there who, in the end, ended up giving scammers $725,000 worth of gold bars. They literally came to his driveway to pick them up. But before all that, there was this elaborate scam where he got a message on his computer saying, "Hey, please call us. There's an issue." He phoned. I don't know if it was a he or she. The person phoned the number. Yep. They said, Your accounts have been compromised. We want you to help us catch the bad guys, and do this elaborate paperwork and withdrawals from the bank and going to a place to buy these gold bars. This person thought all along they were helping to find the bad guy and they were doing the right thing. They ended up handing off, and it wasn't until after, when the person came back asking for more, that they realized, okay, wait a minute, there's something right. But that $725,000 in gold is never going to be found again. What's with the gold, Jeff? Have you heard about this kind of thing before?
Yeah, bottom line, it's untraceable, right? Yeah. And that's what fraudsters are looking for, and that's why they moved over to crypto a few years back, and they're still continuing to use crypto because it's challenging to trace for law enforcement. Now, when we think of gold bars, there's no way of tracking that payment, right? Like there would be with a wire transfer or other payment mechanisms that the fraudsters commonly use. So unfortunately, it was a payment method that was reported I'm going to say 20 years ago, roughly. And it's coming back in certain types of fraud.
Jeff, speaking of banks, is there more that banks and maybe telecom companies and maybe even social media platforms, more that those organizations could be doing to help where scamming is concerned?
I can't really speak on behalf of what everybody else is doing. I can certainly say that we all have work to do collectively. There's still, in 2024, $647 million in reported losses to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. And then going back to that number that I shared, that we estimate that only 5 to 10% of victims report. Right. There's a lot of work to do on the awareness and education front for sure, including for the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, for Canadians in general, for everyone. But I can't really comment for other private companies specifically.
Mm-hmm. What's the latest on your data, Jeff, in terms of how many cases you're seeing in a 3-month period? How much this is costing Canadians every year?
Yeah, so 647 million lost in 2024, 342 million lost in the first 6 months of 2025. So unfortunately, on pace to yet another increase in reported losses to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. It has been, unfortunately, a trend for the last 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is driven by cyber-enabled fraud.
Absolutely. Have you ever had a chance to sit down in your time with the Fraud Center and all the research you guys do to actually talk to one of these guys or girls that do this kind of thing, that actually are the fraudsters, and what's motivating them is profit, but like to gotta get a sense and get into their mind?
Not necessarily. It's not necessarily what we do here at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. Mm-hmm. We're more of a victim-centered approach, or we're supporting the victims. Mm-hmm. It is something that can be utilized for sure. But we're more focused on protecting the victims and supporting them.
Jeff, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to our viewers or listeners about scamming?
So, yeah, do you know what? I think we talk about it a lot when we talk about scams or fraud. And it's, you mentioned at the beginning of the interview here that there's 87 different types of fraud in our fraud index on our website. what they all have in common is that there's always, and for the most part, a sense of urgency. So fraudsters typically want you to act very quickly. And the reason being, guys, is because they don't want you to click on the link really fast, or they want you to send the money as fast as possible, because they know if you discuss it with a friend or a family member, or you have time to contact the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, or if you have time to just think about it, there's a good chance that you may not be a victim, right? Victimization happens very quickly. Never feel rushed when you're getting a message, or if you're seeing anything on social media, getting a phone call threatening. Don't feel rushed in any kind of way. Always take the time you need to think about it, ask a friend or family member, and in most cases, you'll save yourself from being a victim.
All right, before we let you go, Jeff, anything else you want to add that we didn't ask you?
Yeah, so even if you've been a target of fraud and you haven't necessarily been a victim, you can report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. And of course, if you have been a victim, very important to contact your local police and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center.
All right, well said. Oh, Frisco?
Oh, yeah, just to be clear, you are the real Jeff Horncastle. We made sure, I wanted to let our listeners know and our viewers that this is not an AI Jeff Horncastle. This is the real one.
This is the real Jeff Horncastle. Again, I'm not a deep fake.
He's the real deal from the Gateway City, North Bay, Ontario.
That's right.
Home
awesome.
of baytoday.ca.
Awesome.
Jeff Horncastle, Outreach Officer with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. Good to see you again, Jeff. Appreciate you doing this tonight.
Thanks, guys.
This is exactly why I don't answer any of your texts.
Because you don't know if it's me.
I don't know. Is that the real Scott say? Is this a scam?
Is that the real reason, though? Because I do recall I texted you last night after the Jays won.
Yes, well, that's why I didn't write you
You
back.
just totally ignored me.
I will totally always ignore that one, because the Jays are just a big scam. So I wouldn't.
Not this year, my
I
friend.
wouldn't answer that. But yeah, you never know. That's really why I don't answer most people's messages.
It's
so anyone who's listening that I know I never get back to, it's because I don't know. Are you the real?
Yeah. Now you know why.
Now you know why.
It is a scary world that we live in.
It is there.
All right.
You also have to bring me those gold bars tomorrow.
That's just such an unbelievable story.
It's sad. It's
It
sad.
is sad.
I feel terrible for that individual. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine that. And
And what kind of a piece of you-know-what
yeah, that's my thing.
does that?
I guess you have to have a different mindset to do all kinds of different things. But to do that, to know you're ripping off this person who's obviously maybe a little confused or not quite understanding of what's happening. And imagine the police described the person who picked up the bag as between 18 and 20 years old. So you're some kid, high school, maybe just finished. What are you doing, man?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
How about get a real job?
Yeah, seriously, man.
All right, we got a ball game to go and watch. Let's do that. Go Jays.
I apologize to our listeners. They're going to hear a lot of trash talking over the next couple of months.
Okay.
But it's good.
That's
Feel
right.
free to join in.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think, Jays or Tigers.
Closer look at villagemedia.ca, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, and of course, across the Village Media Network and available wherever you get your favorite audio podcasts. Thanks for watching tonight. For Michael Friscolanti, I'm Scott Sexsmith. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.